Session 10 is From CSR to Climate Leadership, Mobilizing Pakistan's Private Sector. This session explores how Pakistan's private sector can move beyond corporate social responsibility towards meaningful climate leadership and why climate action must make business sense. For this, we have a lovely panel with us here today. It's going to be led and moderated by, and can I please request as I say these names for the panelists to come on stage? Firstly, Ms. Nadia Rahman, who is a member board of trustees at the Climate Risk Fund for the State Bank of Pakistan, to lead this discussion as speaker and moderator. We have Dr. Faisal Hashmi, the Senior Director at Coca-Cola Pakistan and Afghanistan. We have Mr. Ziad Bashir, the Non-Executive Director at Gul Ahmed Textile Mills. Mr. Najibullah Khan, the Deputy Director, Network Operations and Maintenance Center, Zong. Mr. Mohammad Raza, the Group Head, General Services and Customer Support, Mizan Bank. And finally, Mr. Fahad Chinoy, who is the CEO of Pakistan Cables. Welcome, everyone. Nadia, handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Zishan. So this session is going to focus on how the role that the private sector has to play in the climate transition and preparing Pakistan to make its journey towards low carbon development. And in the recent past, we have seen how economic resilience is closely tied to climate resilience. So the numbers that we have heard, to make Pakistan climate resilient, the country needs $348 billion. And then it also requires transformation in the way we operate, the way we drive our cars, the way we transport and power our homes. So it requires a whole spectrum of technologies, cleaner technologies that have to be brought into the mix. And and industrial processes also have to evolve for us to remain relevant in international supply chains. And that is something that the government cannot do on its own, and the role of the private sector is essential. So today we have a stellar panel. We have some of the largest manufacturers in Pakistan, and Zishan has introduced them. We'll start the discussion. So the binding constraint for us, as far as we understand, is finance. And private capital mostly flows into where it makes a business case. So we've seen a UNEP report says that nature negative financing is 140 times more than nature positive financing. And the numbers are even lower in Pakistan. A UN report says that climate finance in the private sector is less than 5%. So where are the funds going to come from for the kind of transformation that we expect to see in terms of stewardship of our natural resources, whether it's water or, and also in adopting the capital intensive technologies that are required to make this transition. I'll start with Dr. Faisal Hashmi. He leads Pakistan and Afghanistan for Coca-Cola. So Dr. Water stewardship for Coca-Cola is important in terms of its sustainability commitment. Let's know what operational risks do you see in the future for the company, and how is Coca-Cola transforming itself for water efficiency and regenerative practice?
Thank you very much, Ji. Water is very important for us because it's not only a main source for our production, but a shared source, the national source as well. So we are very much concerned about the water because our entire production or volumes or sales that is dependent on the water. So Coca-Cola globally since 2015. We have taken various initiatives. We are having Alliance for Water Stewardship program that has been implemented on 7 bottling plants and 1 uh, concentrated manufacturing plant. So we are basically whatever the water we are using for our products, we are giving uh, more water back to the communities and to the nature. So we are having different like initiatives like wetland floating plants, then uh, we are partner in the Recharge Pakistan, is one of the mega projects in Pakistan. Uh, then like uh, if I speak about the uh, like for us, water is we use 3 types of water. Like one water which we use for our product for the production of the coconut product, and second is like the water which is used for the washing, for the treatment, and a lot of other things. So now with the help of the training and development and with the technology, we are using minimum water for this part, and that water which is not consumed for our production, that actually goes to the water treatment plant. So every manufacturing plant is having its own water treatment plant, and we are having a fish pond everywhere at the plant. So that water is treated and then it goes to the fish pond, and that water is actually good for the uh, like for the marine life, and we give that water to the PHAs, to the other government authorities, and to the farmers to use for the tree plantation and harvest.
Thank you, Dr. Sir. So, Coca-Cola is a multinational. They've made commitments internationally in terms of net zero. So they will be mobilizing funds, and other countries would be also bringing in, Coca-Cola would be bringing in innovations in other countries also. What is the ambition like in terms of what more can we do? And what is the ratio that you mentioned, if you may repeat it, that how much you consume and how much you uh, through circularity, bring it back into the water system. If you could talk
Yeah,
about
so like
that,
it
and
is
also international examples on how Coca-Cola is moving forward with its net zero commitment, and where is
so net
Pakistan
zero commitment
positioned?
is actually not a new thing for Coca-Cola. We are as I told you that we are actually doing this since last like many years. We started this program in 2015, and since then we have taken various initiatives at our plant. So uh, one thing is like the water we extract from the soil. So we treat that water, and then we send back that water to the nature as well. But other than that, like we are arranging clean drinking water for the community. So that water, which is basically uh, the water from the government and some like other sources. So we are treating that water, and we are converting that water into a drinkable condition, and then providing to the community. So like we are having the number we can share with you, but we are whatever we are using in our production, we are giving 100% back to them.
Which communities are you focused on in terms of like water stressed communities or?
Yeah. So previously, like I think many years back, so if we were extracting water from Lahore, maybe we were giving back that deficit of the water to maybe Sindh or some other areas. But now as per the new guidelines, first we do the surveys that where the water is scarce, and according to the scarcity of water,
Right.
we basically design the program which are implemented on the same place from where we are extracting the water.
Right. Thank you very much. Uh, Ziad, I will now be talking to you. Gulaim Textiles, you're one of the largest exporters in Pakistan. And there are, in terms of this industry going green, what are the challenges that you see with the evolving landscape internationally? Compliance requirements are changing. And then we have an age-old supply chain. The ginning industry is not very energy efficient. So in terms of supply chains and the changing demands internationally, how do you see Pakistan and our main manufacturers? What kind of shifts do we need to do to benefit from it, position ourselves well, and where are the funds going to come from? Thank you.
Thank you. That's quite a large question. I'll try to address it point by point. The major challenges at the moment are that the country doesn't really have a carbon pricing mechanism in place. So there's nothing that's been done to, have a measurement or a reporting or verification system. So companies are doing it individually. So there's no basically system to measure all this stuff. So companies are putting up their own, water plants, effluent treatment plants. They're putting up their own water recycling plants based on their customer base. So let's say you're serving customers in Europe. So Europe will have its own, requirements of effluent treatment, of recycling, and this changing year on year. And then there's the, CBAM, which is coming, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Now, Pakistan doesn't have a way to measure this at the moment. So this means that there'll be unilateral, charge placed on Pakistan by Europe at some point. They will do, their own calculation, and they will figure it out for themselves and put it there across, the board until Pakistan has, the ability to measure this locally. So this is going to affect us all, very fast in the years to come, and I don't know if we're prepared for it. But then again, we should not also, try to go ahead of the curve. It's like, maybe decades ago when the labor laws were coming, other things were coming, Pakistan adopted them way faster than even most of the European countries adopted a lot of the things about triple overtime and other things, which we are stuck with at the moment. And, so we are actually at a disadvantage of manufacturing at the moment. So the same way with this environmental and carbon stuff, you should not jump the curve. For example, we put a carbon levy on furnace oil just last year in the budget of something like 60%. That means at that time, if oil was, or furnace oil was 120,000 rupees, your levy was 80,000 rupees. That meant that every generator which was producing with furnace oil had to shut down. Why? Even America or European countries don't have such high carbon levies. Why are we imposing this on our manufacturers over here? So we have to think, that we have to maybe follow the leaders. We don't want to be the leader because you can make a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes are extremely expensive if you're not careful. It's like when you're in a race, people talk about, like you're not the best Formula One car, it's a Formula One race or a car race. You have to be behind the leader and you follow the leader around. You're not the one, we are not that developed as a country to be the leader. So these carbon things, we should leave it to Europe and to America at the moment to, lead the way. And then we should learn from them and then try to, not reinvent the wheel until we are at that level where we feel, okay, we have developed to that level to implement such systems and be at a playing level. But at the same time, Pakistan, there are 200 countries in the world. We are responsible for less than 1% of the global carbon footprint since they've started measuring emissions. But countries like the US are responsible for 25%, the EU for 22%. But at the end of the day, we are the top 10 most affected. So we're responsible for nothing, but we're in the top 10 most affected. I think the last number which they gave out was from the last flood, over $30 billion of damage or something like that. That's nearly 10% of our GDP. So, there has to be an equitable way for these mechanisms to work, where the countries that are responsible end up bearing more of the cost than the ones that are affected. If they're just going to put all their costs on us and they're going to put it on our manufacturing chain, which is already running on razor-thin margins, I think the world has to actually come up with a very fair mechanism going forward. And I think we need to also, as a country, make sure that our rights and fundamental rights on this are maintained and that we are not, the money is not sucked out of the country. Because when they went through their industrial revolutions, they didn't have all these things. They didn't have all these human rights or climate change and all this stuff, all this cost. So they developed at a very cheap rate. Now they're expecting us to pay all these things, and then all the toys that come with all these things are produced by them. So we have to purchase all these plants from them to become compliant to them. So this just seems like, a bit unfair to me that they're making us responsible to bear the brunt of this cost. I think that sums it up.
Yes. So you've addressed the part of compliance very well, that we don't have to be leaders. We can follow others and learn as we go. Now, with the prices falling and the kind of energy shocks that we are seeing in international supply chain, it's almost become a competitiveness imperative for us to insulate ourselves from fossil fuel or very energy inefficient, and we have to move towards more efficient production systems. And ginning, as we spoke earlier, hasn't been able to evolve. The incentives are not in place. So that's going to hurt our competitiveness. And so we should be able to look at some kind of climate finance or other sources of funding. What kind of incentives do you think should be in place to enable that shift? Because it's going to affect our competitiveness also if we do not make the shift right
Yes,
now.
I definitely agree with that. And I think with fossil fuels, where the way they've increased and the renewables, the price has come down. But for plants that have a large scale, this is tens of millions of dollars of investment. And the thing is that countries normally, or companies in other countries, don't need to do these investments. So when we're responsible to do these investments, it makes us incompetitive. Rather than investing in capacity to export or to manufacture, we're investing in capacity to produce electricity. Producing electricity is not our job, but we're doing it because the government is not efficient or they have too many systemic losses. So I mean, somebody like Fahad Chanoy will be able to tell you better about the transmission losses because that's his business, and he's going to be able to tell you. But these inefficiencies are passed on to us. So if there are losses in transmission, if there's any inefficiency, if there are any agreements which have been made, which are not efficient, everything is passed on to the manufacturer. So how much can the manufacturer absorb? And I agree with you, green financing definitely needs to be there, but it has to be there with checks and balances, so it's not misused, and the finance is not used in other avenues or other areas. And also, there's things which happen along with being able to finance it, like let's say wheeling. Now you put up the plant, if the wheeling policies are not clear or they're not commercially viable, there's no point putting up this equipment if you need to transmit the electricity somewhere else. So there are a lot of policies and things which have to happen in parallel rather than sequential, because you put up a plant and you don't have right of way, right of passage, you can't take the electricity. There's a lot of things like that that are related to this. It's very challenging, it's not easy. And I think people like yourself and the planning commission will have to actually work and come up with plans of how to implement this in the most efficient manner.
That's the challenge of climate transition. It is cross-sectoral. So working with Ministry of Industries and then transmission and all of that. So it requires stronger advocacy from the private sector too. And you are doing. Okay. So now I will move on to Mizan Bank and Mohammed Raza. So there was a recent issuance of green sukuk, and there are other aspects that you're looking at. How is the private sector, how are the banks focused on enabling climate action, and what kind of instruments are becoming available in the private sector, in the banking sector?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, let me congratulate Dawn Media Group for arranging such a vibrant sort of conference. I think I've attended lots of conferences, but I feel that every session is very engaging. So that is one plus point, and I must congratulate Dawn Media Group for this. As far as banks are concerned, we heard Deputy Governor, State Bank of Pakistan yesterday, and we really thankful to State Bank of Pakistan for taking the commendable lead in creating the ESG framework as well as green banking guidelines, giving a very clear message and signaling that climate risk is actually financial. So as far as the banks are concerned, we are not sitting on the fence and just looking at these transactions. We are now actually a very active enabler. So just to come to your question, let me just let you know what basically banks are contributing, and banks can contribute in terms of this transition. Actually, we are, as everyone is aware, that banks play a very important role in terms of handling the capital to manage the capital flow. And that is where the banks comes into action, and we are really working towards pushing the green financing. So as far as the banks are concerned, we ensure that we finance to those companies which are more towards environmental friendly. They don't have that CO2 emission, or they work in that direction of reducing the CO2 emission. So this is one very important contribution of the bank towards this climate. Then at the same time, we are supporting the SMEs and the household, the consumers towards adopting the climate action, the climate friendly and the energy efficient solutions. Like the banks are coming up very fastly with products for the solar, for wind, for EVs, for these electric bikes. And with the passage of time, we are seeing that whenever there are challenges, the move towards these products are increasing. We just saw during these the challenging conditions which we are really facing, the fuel prices went up. And as the fuel prices went up, we have seen that the demand towards EVs and electric bikes have increased. So the banks are really working towards promoting and coming up with these product innovations, coming up with these product development, so that we are able to fulfill the needs of the customers and to provide that the climate action. The bonds, the green bonds, they are into action, and the banks are pursuing, they are participating. And I personally feel that with the passage of time, these actions are now becoming mandatory. To start with, the green banking guideline which the State Bank issued, they were more like voluntary, and banks were asked to do it on voluntary basis. But now we have to do it on mandatory basis. And with each passing year, this focus is increasing. And we even have to report now. So reporting is now very important. And with that, banks now are not on the fence. They are enabler now towards this the climate change.
Thank you very much. So in terms of returns, investments in climate action, is that, so where do the rewards come from? Is it in better ESG rankings? So how do you see it in terms of financial returns to the bank?
Actually, when we look at the overall landscape, the opportunities are too many. The issue was that we took the challenges side first, and we didn't look at the opportunities. The opportunities are so big that currently what we see is there are tens and billions of climate financing opportunities available, which unfortunately we are not able to tap. And the reason being that some reason is a new field. So the banks are developing our expertise. We are developing our expertise, and our credit teams, our risk teams, they're still a bit afraid of looking at these new green technologies because they are still unproven. They are there, but still, for Pakistan perspective, they are unproven. But what we feel is that with the financing gap, we can really work on them, and we can generate lots of new financing at very, very good rate. Pricing is an issue at this point in time because due to lack of data, which is already being discussed, there is also a greenwashing sort of a risk, because we are not really aware that the projects which have been presented as green, whether they're really green or not. So, but now with the Pakistan Green Taxonomy also in place, we have specified and standardized definitions of which projects are green and which are not. I think this challenge will be covered, and I personally feel that with the population of Pakistan, we can sell any product, and we can sell any product at with a profit. And to last, one of the key benefits which I really feel is that by acting on this path, we will also be able to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the humanity will be able to please Allah. There's a saying of the Holy Prophet that even if you remove something of harm from the street, that is a charity. So we really feel that whatever we get in terms of profits, this is one of the biggest profit which we can get.
Thank you very much. That's certainly in line with the values. So I'll now move on to CEO Pakistan Cables, Fahad Chinoy. So Fahad, as one of the larger manufacturing companies in Pakistan for copper cables and steel, you have a good you would have a good understanding on how internationally the critical mineral value chain is evolving, what the future demand is, and where do you see Pakistan going, and where are the opportunities for us? And yes, leave it.
Thank you. So, copper has become sort of the strategic metal in the sort of energy transition that's taking place. And clearly, climate change has accelerated the shift to renewables, the shift to EVs. And renewables and EVs demand a lot more cabling. I mean, to just give you an example, an EV takes about 85 to 100 kgs of copper versus a conventional vehicle, which takes about 20 kgs of copper. So, if you do the math, a ton of copper would feed, 10 to 12 EVs. So that has really multiplied and accelerated the demand for copper. Copper, of course, is a finite mineral. And copper today is trading at all-time highs, and the view is that as the global economy stabilizes, there will be a further surge in demand for copper, which ultimately may result in shortages of copper, because the gestation period for mines today, from the time that you discover the mine to the time that you bring out first copper, is estimated at 17 to 18 years. It used to be about 2 decades ago, it used to be 5 to 6 years. So it's, the copper is much more further away, it's deeper in the ground, it's in sort of remote areas. And as a result, there is a mismatch in terms of demand and supply, which will drive up the scarcity and the price of copper. I think the opportunity for Pakistan, of course, we all know, is that we are mineral rich. We have one of the world's largest copper mines in Balochistan, and the Reko project has been something that has been, top of mind for the government and for the economy. Unfortunately, I think recently Reko indicated that they were slowing down the project. Hopefully, that will, once with the optimistic hat, once the Gulf situation stabilizes, hopefully there will be a resurgence of interest in Reko. I think that will then, of course, unlock a lot of opportunities for mining and for creating a ecosystem in Pakistan that can support the value chain certainly for our products. Also concurrently, what's happening is that as copper is becoming more and more scarce and expensive, there is a potential shift towards cheaper materials such as aluminium. Aluminium itself is a very energy intensive metal in terms of producing it. And there will also possibly be a shift towards recycling. And we're starting to see that, the industry is trying to look at recycling opportunities to make up for the shortfall of copper. But I would say that, holistically, if you look at the opportunity for Pakistan, we certainly have, we're blessed by God with all the sort of availability of minerals. And of course, the question is that will the security situation, accessibility and execution allow us to realize the benefits of that?
Right, thank you. So in terms of the ore and natural resources, we are blessed with it. Mr. Najibullah is also here? Oh, yes, you're here. Okay, great. So my question to you, Fahad, that in terms of, we do have the natural resources, and right now we are positioned to export them as raw materials, and as we understand that the value chain, it's from copper cable and And then there are so many other applications of copper in the way we are going to see EV transforming and other transmission technologies. Do you see that we are going to be smelting in Pakistan, or will we be exporting raw material and then re-importing cathodes and then further producing this? Where do you think, how should we go about our place in the critical mineral value chain?
Yeah, so I think right now, we're at the stage where whatever copper is being extracted is being exported primarily in the form of ore, and then it gets smelted, refined, processed, and then, for whatever demand there is in Pakistan, brought back over here. Ideally, we'd want to have the entire value chain over here, but it's very, very nascent in that you would need to have critical mass from the mine that can support the feedstock into the smelter, and that then can, downstream into the refining, and then ultimately the fabrication of cathodes or whatever type of copper. So I think we're quite far away from that. I believe that first copper, if it comes out of Reko Diq, would be 2030. Then you develop some critical scale that would then possibly support the feasibility for a smelter, and then refining capacity and so on. Notwithstanding the issues of logistical challenges, energy intensity. So all of those would be hurdles that we'd have to cross at a later stage. But for now, unfortunately, from my business's perspective, we have to import all our copper from outside of Pakistan.
All right, thank you. So now I'll move on to Mr. Najibullah from Zong. So in terms of climate governance and digital governance, we need connectivity. So for timely reporting on impact advisories, and also for digital governance in agriculture, or so many aspects of it. So there are two roles that you play. One is in terms of latency, or how long it takes for impact advisories to be disseminated. And then the other is, how are you prepared in terms of extreme events to maintain a resilient network so that we do not have outages? And how is Zong investing in this?
Thank you, Nadia. Yes, you're right. At Zong, we believe that it is our responsibility, social responsibility, to provide connectivity to the people of Pakistan, to the customers. And Zong has been playing this role for the past 2 decades. We are here, and we have provided the services to the people of Pakistan. Throughout this era, the period, we have seen tremendous climate changes and certain events of disasters due to climate changes. What I will walk you through, that how we have faced those climate changes and the disastrous event that happened earlier, how we faced that, how our network is resilient enough to manage those events, and how we continue to provide connectivity to the people of Pakistan, and we supported our government agencies, our NDMA, PDMA, whatever people on the ground who were working for the restoration of the people. How we supported them by providing the network coverage. Our network is spread all across Pakistan. We have deployed multiple installations, equipment spread all over Pakistan, and for that to work, there are two major essential things. First, continuous supply of electricity power, which is a challenge, as my fellow panelists have also commented on that. It is a challenge in Pakistan. We are not producing enough electricity as per our requirement. So the companies like us, we have to produce our own part of electricity. And the second thing is the connectivity. Once the electricity is there, we need to connect our network so that the communication takes place. The network that we have deployed is multi-layered as far as the electricity consumption, electricity generation is concerned. We have our own battery backup on every location that we have our equipment installed. So once the electricity is not there, the equipment is shifted back onto the are some areas where there's no infrastructure of electricity. This is a challenge for us, how to operate in those areas, how to provide connectivity to people. So we have opted to multiple solutions, like we have placed gensets over there to run our network. And we have also opted to the green energy, the clean energy, which is solar. We are continuously investing on solar and deploying solar with our cell sites to keep them up and running using the green energy, natural energy. So this is the multi-layer infrastructure that we have for in terms of electricity. While if you should talk about the connectivity, we connect through two mediums. Either it's a wired connectivity or a wireless connectivity. For wired connectivity, optical fiber network is deployed all across Pakistan. And for wireless connectivity, we have our radios. Again, the backup is there. If the wired connectivity is broken somehow, we have redundancy in the wired network. If one fiber or one cable is broken due to some disaster, due to some, in 2022 we had massive floods all across Pakistan. Our fiber remained broken for multiple days, many days, because there was water everywhere, and it was not possible to restore that. But we had redundancy. We had other routes. We had other cables through which the traffic automatically got routed, and then we had radio links for the communication. So the communication remained intact. And in 2022 flood, we were the very first network of Pakistan that restored the complete network, the down network, within 14 days. And that was also acknowledged by the government of Pakistan and PTA. We were the first one to get the network up in the affected areas. So this is how we manage the disasters. We usually, luckily, we know usually in what period of the year the climate changes, because Pakistan is heavily affected by monsoon. It's a monsoon affected region. So during monsoon and after monsoon, we generally face flood-related situations. Sometimes it's extensive, sometimes it's moderate. We have our own disaster processes and policies in place. We arrange resources, we optimize the resources, we place the resources accordingly. We remain in touch with the authorities, with the agencies, NDMA, PDMA. More importantly, our field teams are on ground in far-flung and the remotest areas of Pakistan, where probably we don't have the presence of others, but our teams are there to protect, to secure our network. So we are the first one to take part in restoration of the network, and also supporting the people over there who are affected with any climate-related disaster that occurs. So we stand shoulder to shoulder with our governments, our agencies, in resolving the issues in those areas. So moving ahead to the second part of my conversation, which is clean and green energy. We have upgraded 85% of our network with the state-of-the-art, latest technology, lithium-ion battery banks. Earlier, we were using the traditional batteries, which had more carbon emission. These lithium batteries are environment-friendly, and we are focused to have the carpet coverage within the next year, and the whole network will be equipped with the lithium-ion solution. At the same time, we have deployed more than 1,000 solar solutions in our network. We are generating a capacity of more than 10 megawatts, which I have the numbers. The solar deployment is able to generate 10 to 12 million kilowatt hours of electricity. We're generating it ourselves, clean and green energy. And it is helping us to save 1.4 million liters of fuel, which would have been burned using the generators otherwise. So this is how we are playing our role, keeping Pakistan's environment clean, using the green energy solutions, and helping making Pakistan environment friendly.
Thank you, Najibullah sir. So the interventions that you've talked about, a lot of them do result in carbon sequestration, the solarization, and also using efficient batteries. So have you thought about claiming credits for it? Are you moving towards that direction? Is that attractive to you in any way?
Yes, we are. As I said, we plan to have more investment in the same areas. In coming years, we will be adding more solar solutions. This year, more than 250 solutions are already
claiming
plan.
carbon credits, carbon finance, carbon credits for that.
Carbon
Is
cre-
Zong thinking about it? Getting
Uh,
finance through other modes?
No, we are currently not thinking in these lines. We are only working to make our network as much as less
Resilient as
carbon affected as possible later on maybe. But yeah, we have business partners and we are working with different partners to different models. The AI based, there are certain AI based solutions there. We are also planning to adopt those starting this year that will help us more efficiently utilize our power resources and make our network more energy efficient.
Zishan, how are we doing on time? We are over time? All right, great. So I wanted to ask one key takeaway. Can we do that? So what would be a cost of inaction for you, and what is your key takeaway from this panel?
So regarding
If-
water or like overall?
Regarding water, yes.
So regarding water, I think this is a shared responsibility, not only the multinational companies or the government, but the collective responsibility that we all have to work to conserve the water. So water is definitely a commodity which will not be available in the future.
Right. All right. And you,
I feel the
Yeah.
cost of inaction would actually be losing your export market share globally, because if you don't do anything, you're going to let your competitors leapfrog you. And countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, China, other countries have already surpassed you in exports. I mean, Bangladesh, which 10 years ago was maybe half your size, now nearly double your size in exports. We've been losing a lot of market share, and if we lose the climate action game, or the green game of transitioning to green manufacturing, I think we're going to lose a lot more market share.
thank you. And Najibullah, what will be the cost of inaction if
I
you don't
think
make your network
there is
resilient?
always there, the commitment is there. Our parent company is China Mobile, so we are, Pakistan-China friendship, committed to invest in Pakistan and make our network more robust and resilient, provide connectivity to the people of Pakistan, and stand shoulder to shoulder with the government of Pakistan in any disaster.
Mohammed Raza Khan.
Okay, as banks, we have dual responsibility. We have to look at our own impact by reducing the carbon footprint, by doing things for ourselves. And then we have to really motivate our customers to go for it. And I really feel that is the right direction. Although, as I said, we do have challenges, but when I look at the opportunities, I really see that opportunities are widespread. And at this point in time, I really feel that the banks that takes action, they're more proactive. They won't be doing good for a year or two, they will be doing that for a decade.
Thank you. And Fahad?
Yeah, I think that we're moving in the right direction. I think the SECP has, is enforcing certain reporting standards now around climate. That will be sort of a process over a few years. But I think what it'll do is it'll quantify through a framework whereby then you go away from the greenwashing and you're actually seeing genuine action. So there is a little bit of a sword hanging over the listed companies' heads to get that done, and I think that's a step in the right direction. The challenge is that the listed entities, while being large and well known, are still a very small portion of the rest of the economy. And where do we bring that responsibility in from the SMEs and from the informal sector? That's going to be the big challenge for us.
Right. So I would like to thank the panelists. The private sector is at the front of how we're going to go forward with this transition, and the government doesn't have the the expertise in the technologies or the ways of production that the private sector has. So stronger partnership would be required, and a stronger advocacy to mobilize funds and to align policies, because this is cross-sectoral. So that would be required. And thank you very much for your time. I'd like to thank Dawn Media for this session. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists. A very rich discussion cutting across multiple sectors. Can I have a round of applause, a louder round of applause as our panelists get off stage? Thank you. Next up, we have the commissioner from the SECP for the Securities Market Division, Mr. Ali Farid Khwaja, who's actually a Wapistani because he's in his own right a very successful individual in the private capital markets across the globe and has chosen to come back to his country and serve in the public sector domain. So, Ali Farid, can you please?
Thank you, Mikhail, for that introduction, and thank you, Dawn Media, for inviting me and for hosting this event. I had a short presentation to run, but I think there's a technical issue. We don't have a connector here, so I'll try to make it, I'll try to cover it up. But basically, as Mikhail said, I am a commissioner at the Securities and Exchange Commission, and I am the lead for Securities Market Division. I recently joined SECP, and prior to that, for the last 20 years, I've been working in financial markets as an investor, investment banker, and I ran a couple of listed companies in London. So, so for this presentation, when I was asked, and the presentation is right on my laptop here, so I can't refer to it, I asked my colleagues at the SECP on what have they done on this topic of ESG and climate change. And there were 5 areas they mentioned. The first is they've made it mandatory for ESG reporting. This was referred by the gentleman from Pakistan Cables in the last panel, that by 2031, all companies, all public companies, whether they are listed or not listed, they have to do ESG reporting separately. There are 3, it's in a phased manner, and the first deadline is 2029 for companies above a certain size, then 2030, and eventually by 2031. The second thing they have done is they have put ESG disclosure guidelines and they have aligned it with Pakistan Green Taxonomy. The third thing, there is the ESG Sustain portal, where there's a lot of data around this topic and around a lot of infographics from what various companies are doing in this area. The fourth is governance reforms. And they put in place a code of corporate governance. They have changed it to facilitate more better practices around ESG in general and climate change in particular. And lastly, they have introduced and they are working on introducing new products for financing of ESG initiatives. These include ESG mutual funds. I think very soon you will see some asset management firms launching ESG compliant funds. And the second is green bonds. I think there have already been 2 green bonds which have been issued so far. One, both recently over the last couple of months, and one of them was for an infrastructure finance transaction for a telecom tower. There also, somebody mentioned carbon credit, and I think one of the things in pipeline is that we are discussing how can we launch a carbon credit exchange in Pakistan. So those were all the steps which SECP has taken, which are all around better reporting, better disclosures, better data, so transparency, and getting the data out there so people can think through using that data. But I have a as I mentioned that I've recently joined SECP. It has only been 3 months, and prior to that, I've primarily been in the private. I've always been in the private sector as an investor primarily. And so I think I have a problem with this mechanical approach to this topic. Mechanical approach, I mean scoring and publishing documents which have climate data in that. Because if it's only mechanical, then it's treated as a tax. It's treated as something extra, an extra cost. So to even discuss topic like this, we have to arrange events like this, gather great people, and arrange good food because it's something extra. So companies treat it as a tax. CSR is treated as something extra you do for the good of Pakistan. And then somebody said, we do this because it's great for Pakistan. So you feel that it's something extra which you're doing, which is a cost on you, and that's why you have to celebrate it and you have to talk about it and you want to be recognized. There's a problem with that thing. The problem with that is that as soon as you take a mechanical approach, it leads to issues such as greenwashing. And there are many, many examples, some funny or tragic or ironic examples of that, which we have seen over the last few years. And then, of course, the most important, famous one is Volkswagen, they had put these devices in their cars. So whenever the car was tested for ESG compliance, they would report lesser carbon emission. And they did that on 11 million cars. And in reality, the emissions were 40 times higher than what they were reporting. There's another company, Deutsche Bank, asset management company, DWS. The CEO, they used to flag that they are leaders in ESG and climate change. And then they were found to be stretching the definition of ESG, and the CEO was asked to leave. Coca-Cola, a great company, I think there was somebody from the panel, they were fined for putting the tag out there, 100% recycled bottles. They were not alone. Nestle and Danone were also fined by the European Commission for that. And there are many, many other funny examples where the companies go out there and tell that they are doing some great work around ESG, only to find out that it was perhaps not as great as they were claiming. Now, I don't fault the companies. Of course, they are doing this because they want to tell you guys and tell the world and tell us that they are doing something good. But because it's a mechanical approach, they think it's good to tell others. So, and that's why they're doing it. So that's why it leads to greenwashing. So there were a couple of research which I wanted to cite, and again, the presentation, which is not on the screen, had some pictures from it. One is a book from a legendary investor called Dr. Mark Mobius. He recently passed away at the age of 90. The guy was a legend, and he created the space of emerging markets investment. In the 90s, those of you who were involved in financial markets in Pakistan, you will probably remember him as a person who was the anchor for our privatization program. He wrote a book called Invest for Good. And in that book, the whole thesis of the book is that ESG or climate, especially actions towards climate change, are not just CSR, but they have a material impact on corporate profitability and asset pricing return. And the book is because Mark Mobius was an interesting character. He used to travel a lot. He used to meet a lot of companies, and he has written quite a few books where he has documented the examples from his experiences. So in that book, it's quite interesting because there are a lot of anecdotal stories which he has mentioned about how companies who did well or who internalized these factors actually performed better, both in terms of profitability and in terms of shareholder returns. The second return, so I highly recommend you to read that book, is a body of work done by Fidelity Investments. Fidelity manages around $1 trillion. It's the third largest asset manager globally. Their asset allocation team out of UK wrote these reports where what they did was they took UN's data around climate scenarios, and they did scenario analysis of what will happen to global GDP and macro if various outcomes happen in terms of compliance on the ESG standards in terms of net zero targets. And they reached a conclusion that they think that a disorderly compliance is the outcome which is most likely. And by disorderly, they mean that by 2030, nothing really will happen, and then suddenly there will be a rush towards compliance. And in that scenario, they think 50% of global GDP, 50% of global GDP will be directly impacted by nature. And they highlighted 6 physical factors, including hurricanes and floods and heat and rainfall, precipitation, as factors which will be affecting corporate returns. And of course, these are very logical. If you just think about Pakistan, let's say if I have to open a hotel in somewhere in Pakistan, clearly a lot of people will think that they should not open in places where the heat wave will come in summers and people won't visit that city. So so that means that when you're forecasting, and if you want to invest in, let's say, hospitality business, for your forecast, you'll have to X out a portion of the year as a time period where you will get little or no revenue. So automatically, even today, climate outcomes or expectations of climate outcomes are leading to impacts on investment decisions. If you have to open a hotel, you'll open it up in the north, right? Like you think it will be open for a longer time period. So that study actually, what they did was they took it on a global level, and their study found that if you look at a longer time horizon, so 50 years, which for most large asset managers, and by large I mean sovereign wealth funds and pension funds, 50 years is a normal time horizon in which they will decide their asset allocation decision. In that horizon, a lot of countries, including Pakistan and including India, will become uninvestable because of climate risk around water. So, because of course, if you can't grow stuff, then there are implications of it. So the key point I'm saying is that I think the discourse on climate change, especially in financial markets, which is a subject which I deal with, needs to shift from just mechanical reporting and scoring, where you can comply, just mechanically, to incorporating the risks in your actually fundamental research. So in your capital market assumption. What does that mean? That means that when you're forecasting the revenue, when you're forecasting the cost base, when you're forecasting the overall GDP growth, the overall inflationary numbers in that economy, the climate outcome will be directly incorporated in those forecasts, i.e. it's something which becomes the core of your business rather than an extra report which is published because the regulators asked you to publish and because it's something cool and it will get you some extra merit points. So climate outcomes are directly impacting capital markets assumptions. And that's why it's actually so important, because that will drive everything. So that was a key point I wanted to mention. Of course, there are some, again, the presentation which is not there, but I'll try to share it, had some data around like that 21% of global asset under management are already ESG compliant. That was a good statistic to throw, but as I said, fundamentally, I personally disagree with that framework, because I don't think that a mechanical compliance, because it's good, is important. I think it's just something which is internal, and it is already impacting our decisions, or where should we build a home, where should we go and get a job, where would future jobs be created, where should we set up our next business. And of course, all of those factors impact job creation, tax collection, and eventually GDP growth or lack thereof. So it's fundamental, and that's the point which I wanted to make in this thing. Let's try to internalize and incorporate these things in our fundamental analysis rather than an external assumption. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali Fareed. And I think the SECP has a critical role to play in the economic development for this country. Senator Aurangzeb, the finance minister, mentioned how we've had over 200,000 new accounts being built in the last 6 months, which is phenomenal. I think we need to get out of real estate as a country and really go into the capital markets.